Welcome to the Send More Offers Real Estate Show with Brandon Barnes, showing you how to do wholesaling deals consistently without having to go on seller appointments. Learn the key tips and strategies that Brandon's students use to find deeply discounted properties that are pennies on the dollar, all while avoiding wear and tear on their vehicle, body, and freedom. Whether you're looking for your first deal or your next deal, it's time to send more offers with your host, Brandon Barnes.
Steve, welcome to the show, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
Yes, me too. Look, it's not often that we get someone that has so much experience in different levels of real estate. You're doing amazing, and especially a fellow podcaster with one of the most successful shows out there for real estate investing. Super excited for you to, share all your wisdom with us about everything that you have going on. But to start, I know that you are really heavy into sales and sales training. Tell us about that. Tell us about the current program that you have going on and why that's so important to everything that you do.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, I think sales, the reason why it's so important to me is I think I was just really, really bad at it for the longest time. One of the things that's funny is we tend to sell the way our default selling style is the way we buy, and so for me, because I'm more technical, I'm a technical buyer. I like to have the data, the specs, this and that. I like to buy based off of facts and whatever. And that did not work, right? That model does not fly. And so as I've gotten better at understanding sales, I got a chance to figure out all the different aspects and components of sales. And as I've gotten better, I think that we have an ability, we have the opportunity to redo the way sales is done. And what I mean by that is if you talk to, people about sales on the street, 8 or 9 out of 10 have had a horrific sales experience, right?
Yeah.
They had sales done to them, right? And I want to change that narrative. I want sales to be something where it's a win-win for both parties and move away from the pushy car salesperson to like, how can we sit down together, figure out what Brandon wants and how we can make it such that Brandon wins and Steve wins. And other people talk about this, but we actually have a way of actually doing it.
Yeah, I love that. And you're thinking about the customer, the client, of course, as well as your own team and your own sales reps, and also helping out other investors along the way with that journey. So let's just jump right into it. Like, what are some of the most important things that you're really emphasizing with everybody that you're teaching and helping to learn and grow? What are you emphasizing that they need to do different to be better at sales?
Yeah, the first thing we look at is Stephen Covey said this, right? Seek first to understand, then to be understood. A coach of mine said, be interested, not interesting. And what we see a lot, it was like, hey, Brandon, here's why you want to work with me. I paid top dollar. You can close whenever you want. We pay cash, all these things. We talk about all these different things. It's all about Steve. Like, what does that have to do with Brandon? If I talk to Brandon, all right, Brandon, like, what's going on? Why did you ask me to come over? Why are you looking to sell your house for cash? When you filled out the form, what was going through your mind? Perfect world, when everything's said and done, what does it look like? And we're going to dive deep into what's keeping you up at night. Right now, what's trendy? Foreclosures, right? It's back. And so like, hey, what's going on with foreclosures? Well, my hours got cut back. Okay, how long has that been going on? It's been a couple of years. Well, why is your hours getting cut back? Well, our sales have slowed down our company. Oh, when's the last time your hours got cut back? A couple weeks ago. How's that affecting things at home? What do you try to do about it? Did that work? Who else knows about this? What happens if we can't help you? Like, we're asking all these questions to figure out exactly what is going on in your world. As a matter of fact, we had an appointment I ran a week ago today where I was talking to the homeowners and I'm like, man, like, you ask a lot of personal questions. Why are you asking so many personal questions? And I said, look, point blank, I don't know if I can help you, And the better I understand your situation, the better I know how I can help you, if I can help you. Right. But if you don't feel comfortable answering all these questions, I get it. I just don't think I'm going to be able to help you. And they're like, oh, okay. Well, so the more honest I am with you, the better you can figure out if you can help me. Like, yeah. And they're in. Yeah. Right. So but now figure out what's important to Brandon, what's his problem, what's keeping him up at night, what does the ideal outcome look like for him? And once we figured all that out, now we can figure out whether Steve wants to do it or not.
Yeah. And so I take it that that's a very loose script, if there is a script at all, right? I mean, I'm assuming that you have some talking points, some thought tracks, but, with your sales team members that are booking appointments, how loose can they be with the script going down that line of thinking?
It can be very loose so long as you hit the frameworks. And the way I've kind of described the framework, and this makes sense if you're like a gamer, right? But when you play at the arcade, you got those driving games for Cruising USA, whatever. Yeah. You got those checkpoints, right? And if you ever go outside the checkpoint and try to go to the next checkpoint, it doesn't count. You got to hit the first checkpoint. So for us, like, we got to set the proper expectations. After we set the proper expectations, we got to spend 15, 20, 30, 40 minutes in the pain as what's going on in your world. After we spent that time in pain, now we're allowed to talk about money. And we're not allowed to talk about money until we figure out why it hurts, right? Yeah. Why it hurts, what we try to do about it. So then we can talk about money. Then we can make an offer, right? But you're not allowed to make an offer until you talked about price. You're not allowed to talk about price until you talked about pain. And you can't talk about pain until we're very clear at the very beginning of the appointment. Hey, Brandon, if we can agree on price and everything else that's important to you, would you feel comfortable committing to working with me?
Yeah, I love that. And I think one of the first people that, along my journey that I heard talking about like a sales system was Todd Toback. And I'm going to try to remember and quote this here, but the intro, the warm up, the build rapport was part 2. Describe the situation. And then after that, I want to say, after kind of describing the offer solutions, and then you go to making the offer, getting closed, and boomerang. I think that's a rough outline of what his sales system was. What are the bullet points? What are the checkpoints that you have your team members using?
So our sales process starts with our guys that are booking appointments, but we say sell appointments, right? Because they're salespeople on the phone selling appointments, right? So the person booking the appointment is like, hey, Brandon, before Steve comes out to your house tonight, if you guys can agree on price and everything else that's important to you, will you be all right committing to working with us? So we're just setting that expectation on the phone before we even show up, right? And then the face-to-face or over the phone for those of you guys doing it virtually. So setting the proper expectations, spending a lot of time in pain, going through price, decision makers, and time frame. Before that. So we go through pain, summarize the pain, and then price, decision makers, time frame. Remind them what they agreed to upon, right? The rules we talked about at the beginning. Go for the close, which is pretty soft. And after we go for the close, prevent remorse before we leave, which I imagine that's probably what Todd's calling the boomerang. But hey, Brandon, it's sometime between now and the next 14 to 30 days, when we actually close in your home, we're going to get a bunch of people calling you, texting you, telling you like, hey, they want to buy your house. Might even offer more. What are you going to tell them? Right? Like we go through this whole thing, but we have this framework. We have the ideal things to say, but it's not, you must say it with these words. It's really more as like, you got to make sure you go through each compartment. And more important than the words is the tonality, the intonation, the inflection, all these things. So to communicate that I am here to help you and that you can trust me as your trusted advisor.
Love that. Love that. And with all of that, let's talk about results, right? So, what are you expecting from your appointment bookers, your sales team members, within your business or working and training others? What are some of the quick metrics that you could give?
During the good times, right? The last 3 years, during the good times, right? Prior to June of 2022, we were seeing 30, 35, sometimes 40%. right? Right now, like 25% is like world class, you know?
Oh, wow.
30%, like don't let that guy leave no matter what. Right? 20% is pretty good. 20% is pretty good. We're seeing a lot right now, about 15%.
Love it. Love it. Cool. And while we're still on this topic, you've talked in the past, and I've been part of some keynotes and some presentations that you've given, and I know that you really champion in-person closing. Do you ever do virtual? Do you suggest virtual in certain situations? Can this work virtually?
So yes, it absolutely can work virtual. And there are situations where if you prefer face-to-face, that virtual still makes sense, right? Tenant-occupied properties, probate properties where none of them are in state, or one person's here, but everyone else is over the phone. Right? Like we're going to be talking about some crazy deal later on where it was all over the phone, right? So does it work over the phone? Absolutely, it works over the phone. You just have to have a business model that services over the phone. And what I mean by that is you better be able to get a consistent amount of steady leads where the leads are cheap enough that you don't have to close every single one and the margins are not as critical, right? So like we love face-to-face because you have better margins. So if you look at a face-to-face model, you have, you can buy deeper and they're more likely to show up, right? Like that's just the reality. So they're more likely to show up on closing day, which is important because that's how we get paid. Right? And you can buy them deeper. And you can buy them more often because you build this rapport. So I strongly believe in face-to-face. But if you prefer to do virtual, which is fine, right? Because if you do in other states or you like to save time, I get it. You're just trading time for certainty. And what I mean by that is you just have to work more leads to get the same number of contracts. You might not buy them as deep, but and you might not close as many of them, like where they show up on closing day. But that's okay if that's how your model is built, right? If you don't want to have, like, for example, we got 6,000 square feet here of office space, right? If you don't have office space, you can save that expense, right? And you can use it more towards marketing and this and that. So virtual works. I think just we have to understand when you do virtual, you are willingly giving up information. And what I mean by that is we're doing this podcast. We're face-to-face over Riverside right now. Right. I can see if you're rolling your eyes. I can see if you're crossing your arms. I can see if we're doing this podcast and Brandon just starts picking up his phone as like texting somebody. I was like, okay, he's lost interest in this conversation. Like, let's get back to this conversation. But if you're doing this virtually over the phone, you are willingly disregarding 50% of the information. Like you have made a conscious decision to ignore body language, to ignore what they're doing with their eyes. You can't control if they're getting distracted. Like I am running appointments again right now. I'm actually having a lot of fun running appointments again. Like dogs jump in your laps, right? Like these are distractions that occur, but we can still manage this. But if we were on the phone, I mean, how many times, I can't speak on this because I don't do virtually, but how many times have something come up? Like, I'm going to have to call you back.
Right.
And then you never talk to them again. I don't know. I can't answer that because I don't do virtually.
Very true. Love it. Well, now let's take a step back and give people a greater sense of, let's put this into perspective. You have your sales, your training, your sales organization, but you do a number of different things. But just to start with the real estate investing business, what are you guys' goals? How heavy are you involved in real estate? Because of course you have Real Estate Disruptors, one of the top podcasts out there for real estate investing. I know you're doing some work on the dispo front with the good guys over at Investor Lift, right? Amongst other things. But just to talk about the real estate investing business, like what type of volume are you guys targeting doing? How big is that business?
So truth be told, our volume has taken a dip, right? Like we got punched in the mouth pretty good in June of 2022. We're in the Phoenix market. Like a lot of us in the West Coast got punched in the mouth pretty good, which is fine because that's entrepreneurship. This is business. This is what we signed up for when we quit our job, right? So our business took a giant dip. So I want to say in 2022, like we were break even, which that's not something to brag about. It's not like, man, I'm glad I worked so hard to break even. But it was a tough year. We got caught with 3 properties, only 3. We got caught with 3 properties when the market shifted, right? To be able to dig out of that hole to break even, we're pretty happy with that. Yeah. Right now, our goal is not really sexy. It's 4 deals a month. It's not sexy, right? But 4 deals a month, that gives us a $60K profit a month. So it's not horrible, right? So we're not talking about doing 100K a month. We're going to get there, hopefully by the end of the year. But at this exact moment, we're happy doing 4 deals a month. If our average fee is still at 23K, it's not so bad.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think that for a lot of us, right? I mean, I definitely in the beginning wanted the biggest wholesale organization ever, right? And then, things changed. COVID happened. It also, of course, with, interest rates and to your point, the change in the market as a whole, making sure that you have a cap, as my mentor, our friend, Tom Kroll says, he likes to say, having a cap on your aspirations helps you, really find your own success, right? In your business, in life. And that's great. But to jump and talk about some of the other things, I want to inspire folks that are listening because, I personally don't even know where you originally started with. I just knew you as the Real Estate Disruptors podcaster. I know you're doing deals. We're in similar masterminds. But how did this journey start for you? Was it just starting to do deals, wholesaling, and then transformed? And take us through that path.
So my story's a little bit different, and everyone probably says that, right? But it starts with Rich Dad Poor Dad because everyone starts with the purple book, right? It's like a real estate Bible, right? We all start with the purple book. Yeah. But I got distracted, which I've got shiny object syndrome, right? So I got distracted and got my real estate license. I became a realtor. So I look at that as like the lost decade because for 9 years of my life, it was totally wasted, right? I got my real estate license in 2007, but I didn't really take wholesaling seriously until I want to say like 2014, right? And the only reason, and look, I knew of wholesalers back in 2007, right? Like my cousin Wayne got into wholesaling. I knew who Chris Iman was at this time, right? And I looked around, I was like, yeah, that's a fad. It's going to disappear when the market turns around. So I'm not going to spend any time on that because that's temporary, right? And then what really changed for me was I was a realtor. 2007, started in May, and I was really heavy in it for the longest time. But one of the things I wanted to do was to get more listings, right? That's what realtors do. We would get listings so we can sell them. Yeah. And I was in the Craig Proctor coaching program, and they had this thing was your home sold guarantee or I'll buy it. Yeah. And I was like, well, let's do this on websites. Let's do this on PPC. Let's go hard on this. And in 2012, I want to say, was around the time where I started running PPC, and I would show up. And by the way, I copied and pasted Sean Terry's website, keywords and everything, right? Just like straight, just copy and paste, no remorse. So I show up to these appointments as a realtor. I'm wearing my realtor hat. And they're saying, I want you to buy my house cash. Like, no, you don't. Like, look, here's what happens, right? If I list it, you can get this. After commissions and this, whatever, you're going to walk away with this. They're like, yeah, but I want the cash now. I was like, no, like, here, look, I don't think I'm explaining this well, right? Like, you're going to have more money if we do it this way. They're like, we don't care. I want the cash now. I was like, if you want the cash now, it's going to have to be this. They're like, yeah, done. Because I was the highest payer, right? I just didn't believe people would take less money, right? And so bought that house, wholetailed it before wholesale was a term, did it again, wholetailed another property because I still wasn't really big into wholesaling. And we kept wholesaling these properties until we ran out of money. And once we ran out of money, I fortunately get connected with Jamil on Zillow, right? Okay. So he's reaching out to me. He's like, Steve, I see these hotels. Like, let me buy them. I was like, okay, you're a wholesaler. I don't know if you're going to close on this. Like, and this is 2014. Jamil, I need your word that you're going to close on this if you can wholesale it, right? Because I was familiar with wholesaling. He's like, yeah, no problem. And he wholesaled it. And he did well. Well, he double closed on it. But at that point was when I finally understood the value that wholesalers provide, and is not a fad, And that's when everything started changing for me.
Yeah. Well, look, that's interesting. And I just wanted to touch on that real quick, that you had a hotel deal. So a deal that you had, taken down and put on the market, but a wholesaler, Jamil Damji, shout out to Jamil, was able to take that property, double close on it, and sell it to an investor. What does that say about that deal, that it wouldn't sell on the MLS, but it would sell off market to an investor?
Right. And that's when it finally made sense to me, right? You can read about it. You can have people talk about it, right? You can go to these events, no money down, blah, blah, blah. You can hear all these things. But myself being stubborn and refusing to believe it with all my limiting beliefs, witnessing it firsthand, and, shout out to Jamil. Thank you, right? For making this real for me. When he did that, I was like, okay, there is something here. This is a real sustainable business over time.
Yeah. And look, I went through that phase myself in my own business when we were having, 80 to, 6-figure months consistently. And we transitioned and said, hey, we're going to put everything on the market. And it turned out to be a bad decision, because it just so how some of the deals play out. You either get burned by spending too much in realtor fees, or, you actually could have made out and closed on that deal even quicker. So definitely, I want to make sure people don't fall into that trap. There has to be a proven system, right, for understanding what is the best exit strategy for this particular deal. And it sounds like you had that dialed in, and then you have that dialed in now, just to give people a sense of, how you transition from that sunken decade to where you are now. What all do you have your hands in? To tell the folks kind of what all you kind of working on and what you got cooking.
So the things that we're really focused on is our wholesale company, our education company. That's where a majority of our focus is. We also have a title company. We have a realtor component that I'm not really putting a lot of energy, or have not been putting a lot of energy into it. I used to be a successful realtor, right? I was top 40 in Phoenix, right? Like I was, I'm not trying to.
Wow,
I was a big deal on the realtor side, right? Because I was doing wholesale deals, I made it help.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I was good at PPC marketing. And so what I do now, or I'm going to start doing now, actually, is I get a lot of leads on the wholesale side. And because I get a lot of leads on the wholesale side, I'm still connected in the realtor community. Matthew Potter is a dear friend of mine. And we got the title companies like, look, let's just take, and I'm at Real, right, which is an MLM. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's a multi-level marketing thing, right? It is what it is.
Okay.
So I've got all these motivated sellers, or people that want to sell their house, but not necessarily for cash. We are pumping all these leads now to realtors. And now you got to work these leads. So because I'm a licensed realtor, I can get 25% legally, right? I'm feeding this to a realtor team that's going to manage their salespeople and hold them accountable. And they have to use my title company. So like, I already spent the money on the leads. I already got the phone numbers, right? They were already replied to our texting campaign that they're interested in selling for the right price. Realtors, go have at it. And if I can close an extra 2 or 3 deals a month, which I think there'll be a lot more in that, that's more profit to our bottom line. That goes straight to the bottom line because there are no expenses incurred, right? So that revenue goes straight to the bottom.
Love it. And what was the name of that again?
What the name of what?
I think you mentioned the MLM.
Oh yeah, Real, right? So there's EXP and there's Real Brokerage, right? Those are the 2 biggest MLM brokerages. So most people are familiar with EXP. We're Real.
Yeah, familiar with EXP. I hadn't heard of Real. But that's how you.
Yeah, Real is like the other, right? Like if you were to join Amway, right? Would you want to be one of the first 100 or one of the last 100?
Right.
That joins Amway.
The first.
So we're Real.
Awesome. I love it. Awesome. Well, look, man, this has been, enlightening, and As far as, where you see the market going, just because, we talked about kind of how things have shifted, as of 2022, right? Where do you see the market going in the future? I know that you're getting your hands in some of this on-market activity. You're working with the sales organization. What do you see as next on the horizon for yourself?
The best way to put it right now is that it's boring, which is great because boring is reliable. Boring is predictable. Boring knows we put this amount in, this amount of money comes out. Boring is great, right? And so I don't foresee interest rates changing so much. And if interest rates don't change so much, then what this means is this is the new reality. And this new reality is kind of set in the last 4 to 6 months, right? Like if you're going to sell, you're going to sell. If you're going to buy, you're going to buy, right? Like if you're on the fence, then yeah, you're waiting for something to happen. I don't think anything's going to happen. I think everyone's just kind of settled, right? Like everyone's just resigned to the fact that it's just going to keep sucking. And so if it just keeps staying the way it is, then we're going to keep working what we got. All we can do is just button down our operations because we get paid on volume or activity, right? We don't get paid on housing prices. That doesn't matter to us. We get paid on activity. We're like, the best example I can use is like sharks swimming in water. If we're not swimming, we're drowning. And so for us, I think everything is going to be pretty stable. I don't foresee us doing anything crazy during an election. Election years are always kind of crazy, but they can't hold the interest rates or they can't do very much more. So I think this is just the new reality. I don't see it going up. I don't see it going down. I don't see activity going up. I don't see activity going down. I think, this is it. This is the reality. And we're just going to keep working at it.
And so in any market,
residential, I think commercial is crazy. I think this is just for residential.
Good. Right. Okay. And just to touch on that real quick, when you say commercial is crazy, you think that is something that will continue to grow, be profitable? You think folks should continue?
I think commercial is ticking time bomb. I think commercial is going to be a disaster because since everyone buys commercial on either bridge loans or 7-year terms, not everyone, but most people do, where you get ARMs, all of these loans that are resetting from 3% to 7%.
Right.
Unless they have enough equity, it's going to be pretty hard. So, you get that guy that gave out 3,000 doors back in Houston and fled the country because he has a bunch of people probably going to chase him down and do what they're doing to all these crypto millionaires where they're finding their body parts in the toilets or in the...
Sheesh. Well, yeah. I mean, there's that. There's also, people, working more virtually, folks leaving the, city centers and expanding outward. There's so many, changes, right? Just, and lifestyle and work-life balance that, I see exactly what you mean. Going back to single family, I was going to mention, even in a down market, right? If you have your processes locked in, you can wholesale because smart money is buying real estate, right? When there's blood in the water, buy more real estate. So if you're able to find good deals, right, you're always going to be able to find. You also know the good buyers, the smart money buyers, they're still going to be buying real estate. So that makes a lot of sense. Just to touch briefly, to ask your opinion about buy and hold single family or fix and flip single family. Does that mean that, you're not so excited about that? Just kind of focus on the wholesale operation and then the on-market operation?
Yeah, I think if you can buy and hold, it's incredible, right? Like if it cash flows and you can hold on to it forever, like it's the easiest way to become wealthy. Like when I started in 2007, I remember I went to the Arizona Real Estate Investors Association. Right? It's one of the biggest REIAs in town. I remember going in 2007 and I kicked myself. Like if there's one regret I have in real estate, it's this. I had an opportunity, right, in 2009 to buy all these houses for like $35,000 to $50,000 in Phoenix, right? In Phoenix. And I just said, Brandon, it's just too bad I don't have money.
Right.
At the RIA, they've got people lending money at 18%. And here I am, ignorant. What kind of idiot pays 18% of money? That's just stupid. If I borrowed all that money at 18%, And I bought these houses for $35,000 to $50,000. On day one, I'm cash flowing.
Right.
On day one. And all these houses are worth $400,000 to $500,000 today.
Jeez.
I could have bought the entire city. And I didn't.
Yeah, man.
So
that's
if you can buy and hold,
that's often the biggest regret, like not buying sooner, not buying enough, not buying more. 1000% agree with you. Well, tell us about, one of the deals that have come through. Like, you have a great sales organization. You guys are closing in person. You're buying deep because you're building relationships. Share one of those deals with me that might highlight that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. The best deal we ever done, it's a crazy, crazy deal, was we bought a house that it was inherited. So there's a family where 4 siblings grew up inside the house. The parents passed and they passed it on to their 4 kids. So the oldest is there. Well, the 4 of them are at the house and they got into a squabble. The oldest goes into a closet or whatever and pulls out a Louisville Slugger and tries to take them out, right? Like he attacks them, they run out of the house.
Oh my goodness.
So we get this lead. It's a code violation, if I recall correctly. We get this property. It's worth about 140 to 160 at this exact point in time. Also, this is a property that we saw immediately we could do a lot split. So as soon as we close on it, we can do a lot split, right?
Nice.
Which instantly adds value to the property. But if we sell it as is, we could sell it for 140-ish. We talk to the 3 siblings and we get them to agree to release each of their 25% at $7,000 each. Because they're like, we want nothing to do with this property. It's a legal liability. The house is in disrepair. It wasn't that bad, right? But, they thought it was.
Right.
The house is in disrepair. The city has like liens on it, right? Because they actually unplugged the house like from the grid.
The grid.
So there's problems with the house. There's no power and all these other things. So we buy out the 3 siblings at $7,000 each. That's $21K, right? And then we go to the 4th brother. It's like, hey, so your siblings sold their rights. I am now 75% owner. Would you like to buy my 75%? Or would you like us to buy your 25%? We're good either way. To which there were a lot of colorful words. We served them a legal notice. He attacked the process server. He wasn't able to hurt her, but he threw a brick at her car as she was driving away.
Oh my goodness.
So we do a partition sale and the judge forces the sale. And the judge says, market value is $160,000. You guys are going to list it with a realtor determined by the court. And then you guys got to split the proceeds of the sale, 75, 25%. So go back to the guys like, look, judge says house is worth 160. We'll give you 40,000 now and you can just do your own thing. He's like, done. So we're into this property, 40,000 plus the 21,000, 61,000, about 20K in attorney's fees to get to this point. Okay. So 81,000, right?
Okay.
First thing we do, split the lot. Now we have 2 lots, one with a house on it. We sold that lot for 100K. So day one, we're profitable from the lot sale. The time it took to split that lot and do this whole thing with courts and everything, the market's been going crazy. So by the time we sell that other house, it was 260. So we sold another house for 260. So that was, we cleared $250,000. I think after everything was said and done, about 230 net to us.
Oh my goodness. Look, I'm going to drop a bomb. That's amazing. That is amazing.
Yeah.
And this entire time, I mean, you're paying for attorney's fees. Did you have a feel from the jump that you would be able to pull this together with somebody advising you? Or did it all just kind of play out?
It all kind of played out. So we were hopeful on the lot split because we don't know, right? Like you just don't know until you actually own the property and you can do it.
Yeah.
So it's like, here's the play, right? We're going to split the lot and then we're going to do this. But the city still has to approve it, right? Because the house, whenever you're doing a lot split, like the houses have to be like a certain setback from these different lines. And fortunately, this house was closer to was not close to the middle, but closer to the edge. Mm-hmm. So we were fine with it. But you never know with the city if they're going to approve a lot split or not. So it was like, man, if this happens, like we hit it, like we made it.
Right.
But there's no guarantee. But it's like 60-40, 70-30. And then we got it approved. We're like, hell yeah.
That's an amazing deal. Yeah, that's a great one, man. Well, look, it's about that time for the lightning round. But before I do, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, you've given so much back to the real estate investing community through your podcast, through sales training, helping others, just to give people a sense, what made you start with Real Estate Disruptors? How's that going? Where do you see next? What do you see on the horizon for your podcast, your show?
So with Real Estate Disruptors, it was a blessing. So we went to a Dean Graziosi event. I was like, my friend Vic Heredia, who's a big deal in his own right. At the time, he wasn't. He's like, hey, I'm going to this Dean Graziosi thing. It's $97. It comes with a buddy pass. Like, you want to come? And I was like, well, I'm going to be leaving my grandma's funeral, right? I'm going to go into a funeral and then I'll meet you there. It's like, okay, I'll go. There's some emotions here. And this is my grandmother that I did not get along with, right? Truth be told, I did not get along with her. But I remember for her 100th birthday party, I looked around and I was like, this woman was a single mother, raised my dad, all his siblings, raised them, got us all to America. All of us have either graduated college or going to graduate college. Like, this woman made an impact, right? And so I was like, man, how can I make an impact like that? So I was inspired. And then I go to this Dean Graziosi event. There's a guy speaking on stage. He's like, hey, everyone wants to hear your story. You should write a book. I've done that. Didn't go anywhere. You should start a blog. I've done that. That did absolutely nothing for me. Or you should start a podcast. Like, hey, I'll start a podcast.
Yeah.
And so it all came from leaving my grandmother's funeral, going to this event. He's like, hey, if you want to do something, you got to put more content out there. I was like, all right, well, we've done the other two things, didn't do anything. Let's do a podcast, see what happens. And that's really how it all started.
That's amazing. And just to give people a sense, how did it grow? How did it catch on like wildfire? Was it, were you one of the earlier, good shows? What was the secret sauce?
I looked around, right? Because you got to assess the environment. You got to evaluate the landscape. And once you evaluated the landscape, it was like, okay, how can I win in this landscape? So in 2018, right, I started in May of 18. I looked around. How can I be different? It's a marketing question for all of us. How can I be different? As a realtor, is your home sold guarantee or I'll buy it? As a podcaster, it's like, okay, no one's going live. No one. No one does it live in studio. Everyone does it over Zoom if they do it. Interviews, right? Or it's just like the same two people all the time, but it's not a guest interview where someone comes in.
Right.
So for me, I looked at it, I said, okay, I got two competitive advantage. I can create artificially two competitive advantages that don't exist. And then the third one, because I'm in Phoenix, this is the guru capital of the world, right? I got Brent Daniels, Carlos Reyes, Jared Vidalis, Alex Saenz, Jalen White,
Jamil.
I had Jamil Damsey, Pace Morby. Who else is there? We had Chris Iman. We had Sean Terry, right?
Heavy hitters.
Yeah. I got to create this advantage because I'm in Phoenix. If I wasn't in Phoenix, it might not have been as easy as all right, I'm going to plant this flag around and hold the line. But because I am in Phoenix, I got to hold that line.
Yeah, I love it. Well, man, you're an inspiration. I think one of my mentors was very big. One of our shared friends, I already mentioned him, Tom Kroll, was real big on podcasts. And, I love this medium, and, I only aspire to, and watch out, I might have to jump into that competitive advantage. I've wanted to go in person. I wanted to do things in person, but just the logistics of it too, is like you said, here in Atlanta, there aren't that many gurus, right? There aren't that many folks that are doing this on a national scale. But I do love the idea.
There aren't, but just
in person.
Just down the road is Tampa. That's the other guru mecca.
Very true. Very true. Well, look, man, this has been great, but I can't let you go without putting you through the lightning round. Are you ready for that?
Let's go.
Cool. So look, I have a series of rapid fire questions for you. You don't know the question. I don't know your answer. So just say the very first thing that comes to your mind. What's one book that's been inspirational to you as a real estate investor?
I mean, I want to say Rich Dad Poor Dad, but everyone says that. I would say the other one is Millionaire Real Estate Agent. And I know this is not the realtor world, but that was the first book. It's like, you mean you can have an operation that doesn't rely on you? Really? That's pretty cool.
Love it. Love it. Love it. If you could have drinks or coffee with any one person, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
I mean, for the longest time, it's been Ben Franklin, but who knows? Today it might be Steve Jobs.
Love it. Love it. Any particular facts you want to get out of him?
Ben Franklin was the first self-made millionaire, right? He was the first, he started a printing press, right? So he was the first self-made millionaire at a time where this is not a thing you do to become
right.
You just have a farm, right? You don't try to be your own entrepreneur. And Steve Jobs, that man dented the universe.
Definitely. 1000%. What's your best advice for someone looking to do their very first wholesale deal?
Seek a real mentor. Find someone that's doing exactly what you want through the medium that you intend to do it, that's living the values that you aspire to have. Find that guy and learn from him.
That's gold. What's one mistake on a deal specifically or in business in general that if you had a do-over, you would take that do-over?
I mean, it's that 18% money in buying all the city, man. I could have been bigger than Jerry Colangelo, right?
Yeah, you gave us that one. Good stuff. What's the financial goal that you have for your team for this calendar year? You could pick any business. You got a few of them.
Oh, man. The financial goal? I mean, truth be told, because finances the way they are, I would like to pay everyone at or above market. There are some people here that are scrapping. They're scrapping here. They're making it work. But I would love to pay everyone at market value and above.
Love it. Good stuff. If you woke up tomorrow with $500 million deposited into your account overnight, what's the first thing that you would go out and purchase with that newfound money?
Dream home for my mom.
Nice one. Cool. Last one. What's the best piece of advice you would have for the person that's listening right now that just wants to scale their business? Maybe they're struggling, deal with a deal, but they're looking to scale. What would you tell that person?
Have crystal clarity on what you want exactly, because we're filled so much from other people about what the right business looks like, what your target should be, what your goals are, what time you should wake up, what your body should look like, what kind of car you should drive. We have so much input from everybody else, or we measure ourselves against somebody else. Be crystal clear on what you want. And if you're clear on that, then you can persevere through the adversity. Because Steve Jobs said this, actually. 95% of the time or more, what we do sucks. It just sucks, right? If you're going to persevere through all the adversity, you better have something you're shooting for, or it's not worth it. You're not going to do the things that you don't want to do because it's easier to not do them because you're chasing something you don't really want.
All right. I love it. Man, well, this has been great. You've given us a lot exactly from your formula with your sales system. You've inspired us to go out and really uncover the pain in each conversation, as well as everything else about the market, giving us some ideas about, really being the forefront thought leader in your market as a podcaster. Man, I appreciate it. And I want to know, how can people learn more about what you have going on? Of course, they can go and listen to Real Estate Disruptors, but where else would you share things with people? What would you share with them? Where to go to see or what you're doing?
The best place to see what I'm doing is Instagram. It says Steve Trang. You can see everything I'm doing. I got our YouTube channel, Real Estate Disruptors, Sales Disruptors, our sales community. For $97 a month, you can learn everything you need to know about sales, right? So Sales Disruptors, that's our sales community. But I say if you're trying to learn more about what I'm doing and see all the crazy things I'm up to, Instagram at Steve.Trang.
Love it. And guys, that'll be on the show notes. I appreciate you. As always, look, head over to sendmoreoffers.com. There's nothing for sale there, but just a bunch of great information, show notes from all these great guests, as well as if you're in the Atlanta area, if you have a deal or you're wanting to connect, you can reach me there at sendmoreoffers.com. Steve, this has been great. I appreciate you, man. I can't wait to see what's next for you, and keep on pushing, man. You're doing amazing things and you're giving back to the community. Really, really appreciate your time here today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And again, it was a complete honor. Honor is mine.
Awesome. Appreciate it. As always, folks, send more offers, do more deals. Till next time, peace.
That's all for this episode of the Send More Offers Real Estate Show with Brandon Barnes. But we know you're craving more knowledge to get yourself ready for that next deal. To schedule a call with Brandon to learn more about how to do deals consistently without seller appointments in a repeatable way, be sure to visit us at sendmoreoffers.com. And be sure to tune in for the next episode of the Send More Offers Real Estate Show.